So this is the Balsam Lake Provincial Park, and I'm taking the tower, the lookout trail as they call it. I don't know if there's a tower on it, but it's called the lookout trail. And as you can see here, there's poison ivy along the sides, so I'll point that out if we run into it. But this is some of the wildlife that's in the area here. So you got your white-tailed deer, barred owls, blue jays, red foxes, just a few of the animals that we're known for around here. And while I was coming up to here, I was looking for getting a pass for the provincial parks online, because I've been going online and trying to find where to go for hiking, and a lot of the places that I go or want to go are near provincial parks or in provincial parks, and you have to pay for parking, which is expensive. They charge you like $8. For example, this park here is $18 for a one-day pass. So different parks will charge you different amounts, but they're usually around like 15 to 20 or so dollars, and it's pretty expensive, especially for one day. And if you want to come out consistently a lot, then it starts adding up a bit. So you want to get a seasonal pass. So there's a summer and there's a winter pass. The season pass for summer, I believe, is like $75, and the winter one's like $60. But the catch is that the summer pass ends at the end of November. So I'd only get approximately a month and 10 days. With the summer pass, it's like 75 bucks. And if I went for the winter pass, I wouldn't be able to use it until the until the beginning of November, right? Or sorry, December. So you can't go online and book your day vehicle permit, because even if you get the pass, you still have to go onto Ontario Parks website, pick the park you want to go to, and you can book up to 5 days in advance for the putting your license plate in. It goes in their system, and you can book yourself a parking spot at the parks. But the lady there had actually told me that I could probably, because I called her to complain about this, because you can get a yearly pass as well, but it doesn't give you the pass from the purchase date for the whole year. It only goes for like the year that you're in, so it would only be good for 2025 if I purchased the year pass right now, and that's $99. So I called to complain about this, and the lady actually told me to check my local library, because your local library sometimes has seasonal passes. In this case, they had a commercial pass in Fenland Falls at the local library. So I was able to actually go there, get a library card, and which also the library's rich with all kinds of local archives of local history, which is just phenomenal. I can't wait to go back and read it all. But you can go there and get your seasonal pass and check it out for like a week. So I can go to all these different parks throughout the week, and I've got to sign it out for free. A lot of people don't know that, and if you check your local library, go get yourself a library card, and you can go check out the season pass from your local library and go to as many parks as you wish. Just go online, make sure that you register the daily vehicle permit. So you have the pass, it'll have the pass number on there, on the pass, and you can then just go online to Ontario Parks, choose what park you want to go to. In this case, it came to Balsam Lake, and then you can register and put the what you want, what area you want it in, and then what day you're going to be there on, up to 5 days in advance, or you can do it the day of, like today for me. And then they'll let you go there. So it's great. Didn't cost you anything at all. So one thing I'm going to point out here while I stopped, there's some poison ivy right there. It's really easy to spot in the fall because it goes saturated with a heavy red and orange or yellow there. See? It is beautiful looking, but you don't want to touch it. I got some on my hands already last week. It must have been poison ivy or poison oak. Those are three things you're going to want to watch out for when you're hiking through the trails in Ontario. It's poison sumac, poison ivy, and poison oak. But you can easily find that information very readily available online. So wow, there's one. That one's really dark. Check this one out here. Look how red that is. So we're gonna go in, check out what this is like. What is this? This is an ancient riverbed.
Although you are high and dry at the moment, you are standing on the bed of a river that was once inside a glacier. About 20,000 years ago, most of Canada and a large portion of the United States was covered by the Laurentide ice sheet. During the Pleistocene ice age, the land was drastically changed by a massive amount of ice which towered up to 3 kilometers above the land. The glacier didn't just sit there. It moved, shifted, melted, and refroze. The ice picked up various sizes of stones and deposited them in different landforms. As the planet started warming about 13,000 years ago, the glacier began to melt, revealing the new landscape. The ancient riverbed you are standing on is also known as an esker. An esker is formed when a river of meltwater flows through a glacial ice tunnel. Rocky debris picked up by the glacier is freed in the melting process and deposited by the icy river. When the glacier has completely melted away, a ridge of pebbles, cobbles, and gravel are left in a long, narrow, winding strip, mimicking the river that once flowed within the ice. These kinds of glacial deposits are a good source of aggregate, as they are already sorted into layers of similar sized materials. Wow. As you hike, keep an eye on the esker. It continues along the trail and is visible up until the third trail sign. Look on either side of the trail and notice how the land slopes off a few meters away on both sides. You can see the shape of the river that once flowed here. Can you see the shape of the river that once flowed here? That's pretty cool. And you can see this photo, this drawn image here. Little spider already going down our trail. What it was like. That's pretty cool. Alright. This here is northern red oak. Not to be confused with poison oak. And then sugar maple. We had a lot of damage earlier this year from the ice storm. We got a huge ice storm at the beginning of the year that destroyed a lot of our trees. So this is the majestic white ash tree, they call it. It's a white ash tree that began its life in the late 1800s. And the plaque here is actually talking about how most white ash trees like this did not have branches growing so low to the ground that they usually come off, and they'll start usually having branches higher up. Unfortunately, the ice storm had destroyed these branches, as you can see. They broke off, and they ended up cutting some of them, I guess, and then some of them you can see broke right off there. That's sad and unfortunate. It's one of the oldest white ashes in Ontario, with a circumference of 3 meters, and it's 25 meters tall. And usually in a tightly dense packed forest like this, it wouldn't have had limbs that have fallen off now growing so close to the ground. It doesn't have them anymore, and that was one of the things that it was actually mentioning on the plaque that it was known for, because it indicates that this place, because Ontario, much of Ontario was cut down for logging, and so a lot of the trees were cut down, and they had left this one here, which would have been like maybe shade for the cattle and stuff that used to actually graze these lands here. So interesting. Unfortunately, really gotten a lot of damage from the ice storm on that. That's a big tree for Ontario, because like they said, like there's so much of Ontario has been cut down for logging, and it's unfortunate because you go to, like I was out in Latvia with my brother, and that's where our heritage is from, and on my mother's side, and they would have just trees they would just build sidewalks around right in the streets that were
bigger already in circumference than that one there. And they have this famous oak, the Uzuls is an oak tree, and they have this famous one there that's just massive. You could take like 5 of me, and I'm 6'4", so my arms, you could take like 5 or 8 of me going around this tree. It was so massive. And it's interesting when you're going through some of these forests out here. I was up near Cooper's Lookout, which is a little more north of where I am now, and I was going through the forest out there. It's if you go to Cooper's Lookout and you go off the trail and you just keep going north inside that forest there was area in there where there's some decent sized trees like these guys growing around, and then on this path that was like maybe 15 feet wide from side to side, or about the same width pretty much as this path here. They're all small trees, like very small trees, if only, you know, trunks about this thick, and maybe a little bit bigger, not too much. And you can tell just from looking that there was a path that used to be there, right? And probably an old logging trail or something. And as I was going, there was culverts in the ground that I came across too, which used to be, for what I could see, was a river that it used to go underneath there. Obviously it used to be a logging road, right, which was gone to nature. But and then as I followed the dead river, that used to be a river there, it brought me all the way to this beaver dam, which is the reason I could see why the river had disappeared. Let's see what this plaque says. So this is essentially talking about the tree of life, which is actually the eastern white cedar they referred to as. The French explorer Jacques Cartier learned from the First Nations actually how to use the white cedar for treating things like scurvy, because it's actually really rich in vitamin D, and you won't get a lot of other wildlife other than these cedars growing at the base here, because the roots are really thick, right, and they grow very abundantly across the top of the ground here. And other than, you might see some deer and some porcupines and some rabbits going through here in the winter time. It's a very cool little eerie, perfect little Halloween kind of forest vibe here, almost like a little witch's area. Wow, look at that tree out there. What is that? So there's campgrounds down there. The lookout trail is that way, so we're going to continue going that way. It's a loop. Let's go check out this tree quickly here though first. See what this is. Oh, is that a sugar maple? It is. Wow. Beautiful. Gorgeous red color of the leaves. Very cool bark. So actually looking up, this is actually a white ash tree, and it's just, those are actually those branches up there that have lost all their leaves already, and it's kind of being masked by the red maple beside it. But gorgeous, that's huge. Hardwood too. And this is the red maple here. Alright, let's continue along this trail here. Definitely have to put some gloves on or something when I take my boots off later. I think that's how I got it on my hands last time. I had some bumps on my hands that was spreading up my wrist. The best time to go is always the fall. If we're lucky, because it just had rained a ton the other day, might come across a fly agaric mushroom. Hopefully, look out for the yellow ones that are dominant in this area. So this little plaque actually talks about some of the endangered species that live in this forest. These loggerhead shrikes are actually, I see them a lot in Indian Point Provincial Park. There's a lot there, and they like being close to the ground. They fly from tree to tree, and they'll fly right up to you too. They're not very scared of humans. And then the milk snakes, and then blanding turtles. They're all things that live in this this park here. So much damage from the ice storm this year. It's really sad. Look at all this. Wow. It's going to take years for this to be all cleaned up, and I can't even estimate how long this is going to take, because a lot of this is just going to leave to break down, right? They just don't have the manpower and the funding to come in and cut it all, so they kind of got skeleton crews working on cleaning all this stuff up, and mostly focusing on some of the main parks, right? Like the major ones like Morsley and Algonquin and stuff that generates the majority of our tourism and funding. Wow. There's some wild turkeys. There's a whole pack of them. Little pack of raptors. Look at all this damage. This is just dreadful.
this park's experienced much more damage than some of the other parks I've been going to lately. So this plaque is pretty much explaining that we're walking through a very shady portion of the forest, and now we're going to be entering a clearing, which the trees have fallen, as we see. Most of this has been from an ice storm, but in the past, they probably was another ice storm actually, even because they're assuming that it was a big windstorm that knocked them down. Because in this area, there's a lot of rock right below the base of our feet. It's pretty shallow for the soil, and it's pretty loose, so the trees don't get to establish a large base underneath, and they topple over fairly easy. You can see the ones down over there that are leaning over. And there's been so much that just fell down because of the ice storm, because the roots don't go very deep. I actually came across one near Cooper's Lookout Trail, where the base of the tree had come up probably about 12 feet in the air. It was all a big root ball, and then if you went to the other side underneath, it was all just pure stone. The tree was like holding on by only like a foot of dirt above that stone. And out here we have a flower called Indian pipe. That's a wildflower, and instead of getting energy from the sun, because it grows in very shady areas, it absorbs most of its energy from decaying plant matter, or actually mycelia in the ground, just like these mushrooms here. And when the forest has like these ice storm that knocks down all these trees, or the big windstorm that knocks these trees down, it gives opportunity to thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds that are laying on the forest floor to now shoot up, become saplings, and compete for the next stage of who will be one of the dominant ones that help make the new canopy that we'll have here again. And looks like there's going to be lots of room for new competition now. Just look at that. And here we are coming up to another little tunnel almost. This is a very eerie little area. Wow, look how gorgeous that tree is. So this plaque is talking about the balsam firs, and it's actually the tree right here that's fallen right behind it. Here's this plaque, and then they got one laying right here for us to examine. And balsam firs are a pine tree, a conifer, and the way you can distinguish them from, say, like a spruce or eastern spruce is that these pine needles, you'll see they grow in a flat line, rather than the spruce that grow all around 360 around the twig. These ones just grow in a flat line, you can see, right? So they grow left and right, opposed to 360 around the twig. They're also not as prickly as the spruces,
so they're a little more blunt on the end, and they grow often sometimes so thick that it's hard to get through the forest. And along here we're going to see a lot of them, as well as some cedars and a couple of spruces. There's a balsam fir again here. One of the new ones growing here. I really hope that next year, or maybe even a year after, it might take them to start coming to some of these smaller provincial parks and clearing out some of the wood here. I know they were working on it a little bit. If you called them, I got their voicemail that was saying so, just letting people know that there might be excessive noise. But I imagine a lot of our resources are being put towards some of the more popular, larger parks. Still nature though. I mean, this is all fallen trees from an ice storm, right? Not from people coming in and logging or cutting, but this is Mother Nature at her worst. It would have been cool to come in here during the ice storm, but it would have been so dangerous too. Just at the Log Chateau trailer park right behind my house, I had to walk through the forest to go get gas cans for the generator because we didn't have power for 2 weeks. And going through the forest with the empty cans was easy. It was coming back that was more tough. But as we were standing in Log Chateau, every 2 minutes you'd hear a big tree crack and come down. And just walking through the forest on my way back, I could hear the trees cracking and falling like every 60 seconds. And that's a pretty conservative guess. It could have even like even less than that, to be honest. That's being generous with the time between there. But like every 30 to 60 seconds, you hear another tree crack, another tree crack, another tree fall, another tree fall, and you can just see carnage. There's some turkeys. There's a group up there. Let's see if we can get closer. There's a gardener snake. Oh, they got off. They're over there. Hard to see. Whole group of them walking up there. Oh well. Here's a mushroom that I found growing right under here. I'm not sure what kind of mushroom it is. Maybe someone else could leave a comment and let me know. We are in central Ontario. Already described a lot of what the
tree life is around here. Oh, look at this. So we got some more growing right on here. It's a little fungus. It's growing on this tree root here. Now, I don't know too much about fungi myself, but I'll have to learn. There's another one here. And another. I can smell that mycelium too. Gotta keep an eye open for snakes around here. See if I can find any. So this plaque's pretty much telling us about, this is a very heavy poison ivy area. Can't really tell now because all the leaves have fallen off and changed the same color. But even in fall, when the leaves fall off, there's supposed to be a patch of poison ivy right behind this sign here. And you wouldn't be able to tell now, but if you were to put your hands or exposed skin in there, you would still get the poison ivy rash. So they've died and fallen off of the plant, and they're brown laying on the ground. They still have the oils inside them that'll cause the rash. So you've got to be careful still at times like this. Now we're coming into a very interesting part of the trail. Now this is where I'd probably see a lot of wild turkeys walking about out here, because they got some open areas that they like to graze in. You also need to be careful about ticks in this area too, the long grass. I wonder if that's the lookout up there. So this plaque's just telling us that there's all kinds of wildflowers that grow here throughout the year, and monarch butterflies and clusters of staghorn sumac, which we've seen a lot of that already here, not to be confused with poison sumac. believe this is leading us up to that lookout up there. So we're at the top now. We made it halfway there. Lori's Link is this way, but we're gonna start circling back. So here we're at the lookout point. And what we're on here is actually a kame, which is a steep-sided mound that's left behind, made of sand and rocks from a glacier. Pretty cool. This was left behind here from 13,000 years ago. Let's continue on. So there's this. There is there's an island nearby here, right on Balsam Lake, called Hog Island, and it's just off the coast of Indian Point Provincial Park. And what's cool about this island, I'm gonna make a video and go there, but I've been doing all kinds of research on it lately, and it was actually an island left by, oh, check out this tree. Stop for this beautiful thing. Wow. Gorgeous maple, eh? It's huge. I'm probably just walking in tons of poison ivy. That's alright. Wow. This is a massive sugar maple. And it too has suffered damage from the ice storm. I can see all the broken limbs off there. Anyways, as I was saying, there's this island called Hog Island. It's got several different names. It's Ghost Island, Hog Island, St. Anne's Island. And I'm not sure where the St. Anne's comes from, but it may be because of the Jesuit missionaries that were there may have named it that. But during the 17th century, the Jesuit missionaries were all over around this area too, at the Halliburton and around Copaconk and everywhere around, and they were in Peterborough, and they were converting a large quantity of the native population. And I'll keep the story short for my next video when I'm going actually venturing into this place, but I found out that the Hog Island just off the coast there was actually local legend says that there was a church plot that they had there, the Jesuit missionaries, which they would bring the natives over and perform, I guess, their version of mass and stuff there, and they'd have to keep it secret, right? So they were on the island where they could see in all directions if there was an incoming attack, because this was during also the 7-year Indian War. And a lot of
conflict was going on at this time, and they ended up having to flee that island. And during that, you would imagine that when you have to flee because of wartime, they would leave all kinds of objects and stuff behind, right? And they would have to, and they may have buried some stuff and planned to return later, but probably didn't. But I've been trying to figure out who owns it and see if it's public or private. And I've gone through all kinds of registries and stuff, and it's difficult to find out. But I'm planning on going there and bringing my metal detector and seeing what kind of stuff we can find, and then separating myth and legend from fact. So here's one of our signs here again. Talks about the Woody the woodpecker that we have. It's actually home to the largest woodpecker, which is the pileated woodpecker, if I'm pronouncing that right, and the red-headed woodpecker, which is a species now at risk. We have lots of woodpeckers around in our area, down in Fenland Falls, and apparently throughout this forest too as well. Look at the color in that. Okay. It's a gorgeous red. Anyways, you're gonna go through the archives and kind of try and learn what I can about Hog Island out there. And if you go on to your local land map registry, like zoning map, Kawartha Lakes has their planning and zoning map, and it has higher definition satellite images of all of Kawartha Lakes than Google itself. So I'm able to go on there and look at places like Hog Island and see what's there. And it looks like there was an open area there where they probably would have had a church plot that is probably just mostly rock, but a nice big flat area, right, where they probably would have had it on. And it's been really interesting to dig up that history. And anyways, I'll get more into that, why they choose little islands like that, and how common it was for them to be out in these small islands throughout Kawartha Lakes, and what their missions were, and we'll save that for the next one. What's this plaque say? So this plaque goes into information talking about the land between, which Balsam area is pretty much a land between two different kinds of ecosystems, which where two ecosystems meet is called an ecotone, and we're about to venture into a small ecotone coming up ahead, where the kind of lowlands and the marshier areas kind of mix with the higher areas, which are going to have more hardwood and more thicker, dense trees that will be coming up, and then to a more open area with larger trees like ash and maple and poplar. But here it's talking about that Balsam Lake's part of the St. Lawrence, Great Lakes St. Lawrence lowlands, which borders on the St. Lawrence and the Canadian Shield. So there's two different kinds of ecosystems that kind of converge and meet, which makes Balsam Lake have much more biodiversity than most places, because you might get like a moose that's normally accustomed to being more northern part of Ontario wandering down here once in a while, and you might get some of the more southern things like the flying squirrels wandering up here from the south, where they kind of meet, which is cool. You get different, more variety of species around here than you would in most places.
Let's see, look ahead here. It's all the cedars. Now, because of all the grouping here, it seems like the cedars are a lot more resilient to the ice storms that we had, especially since they don't have too much huge branches coming off that would have collected a lot of ice and pulled them down. A lot of them are still standing strong. It seems like we're coming up to the ecotone here. This plaque's just talking about what kind of species are in the wetland here, like the red-backed salamander and the blue-spotted salamanders, and also a lot of water-loving plants around here, like silver maple, eastern white cedar, and the white birch. You'll find a lot of salamanders throughout Ontario. Just lift up some rocks or look in some wood, especially in little creek areas like what would have been there earlier at up at Cooper's Lookout. I lifted up a rock and found quite a large redback salamander who actually throughout the commotion had lost his tail. Which they just grow back. Okay. And this looks like we're back at the beginning again. Yeah, there's our ash tree there. The big ash right there in the middle of the shot. We'll head back here. So it's a nice little easy trail. What's nice about this trail, it gives you a lot of information on the plaques of what you're walking through and what's around you. And it's nice and quiet. There's not too many people here, at least in the fall right now, and it's a nice place to go on a little short walk. It's not really a hike, I'd call this. It's more like a walk, but it's a nice area with a lot of biodiversity. So if you're looking for a good place to go for a walk or with the kids or something, or just on your own with your partner, just mind the poison ivy at the side of the trails and you'll be okay. And like I was saying at the beginning of the video, is that if you're looking for
provincial park parking pass, then don't forget to go check out your local library. Get yourself a library card. They're free. You just have to bring your ID, show your proof of residence in the area, and they'll make you up a library card, and you can just check out the parking pass, the seasonal parking pass. And my library allowed me to take it for 7 days. So this normally would have costed me $18 to park here for today, and it's free. And then once I return it, I don't know what their policy is for me checking it out again, but I plan on returning it and checking it right back out again. And I'll ask them to see how many they have, because maybe they have more than one and they don't mind doing that, depending how busy it is. But if it is like a highly requested item and they'd like you to return it for at least a week or something before you can check it out again, then that's when you maybe get another friend or family member to check it out again, and then go with them. But definitely an awesome idea. It saves you $100 for the yearly pass, and or if you're just going a couple of times with the family or something, or by yourself, you can save yourself $20, $30, $40 in what you would have paid for daily vehicle permits, right? So this was Balsam Lake Provincial Park, and that was the Lookout Trail. Here's the last shot of that poison ivy again at the side of the trail. Vibrant red. Pretty soon it's going to be hard to detect as all the leaves fall off and turn brown with the other leaves, and then you got to be careful. So if you're picking things up or walking through any of it, you're going to get the oil still on your boots and on your hands. And no ticket this time. That's awesome. Check it out. Sweet. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.